After a night of saving the assets of a financial empire, she ended up pregnant with twins. Taking advantage of her weakness after childbirth, I secretly took one of the babies and ran away. 5 years later, due to a job transfer, I was moved from the overseas branch back to headquarters. Son, stay home and play with your auntie. Okay. Dad has to go out and sign a contract. I'll be back soon. My son, holding his toy bubble gun, wobbled around the living room, making pew 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 sounds as he ran and said to me, "Don't worry, Dad." Just as I finished signing the contract and went downstairs, I saw a strange woman scooping up my son and stuffing him into a blue car. I sprinted over like a madman and snatched him back. He buried his face in my chest, tears streaming down his face. Back home, while I was giving him a bath, my phone suddenly started ringing off the hook. The moment I answered, a crisp, familiar voice came through the speaker. My son's voice. "Dad, I have to tell you something, but don't be mad. I sneaked out to find you. And on the way, some cold-faced lady took me to her house. Turns out I look exactly like her kid and she got the wrong person. What do I do now, Dad?" My hand holding the phone froze. I stood there completely paralyzed, my mind going totally blank. If my son isn't home, then the kid's sitting quietly in the bathtub right now. Whose kid is this? I told her I wasn't her kid, but she didn't believe me. She even said I was running around and punished me by skipping dinner. On the other end of the line, my son was still whining about his grievances. Before I could even say a word, the boy in the bathtub whispered, "Don't be scared. My mom isn't a bad person. She just looks fierce. She's actually really nice. Tonight, she'll have the maids bring you some food." My eyes widened in shock. As I stared at the kid in the tub, "How do you know all that?" As soon as the words left my mouth, something clicked. Panic set in, and I asked hesitantly, my voice dry, "The lady my son is talking about. Could she be your mom?" The little boy gave a slight nod, his face completely expressionless. But that confirmation was like a bomb going off in my chest. My vision went dark. What kind of twisted fate is this? The kid I brought back wasn't my son at all. And my actual flesh and blood was taken home by that woman. And the kid right in front of me is her son. I tried to steady myself, forcing myself to stay calm, and said to my son on the phone, "It's too late today. I'll come pick you up tomorrow and switch you two back, okay?" But both my son on the phone and the boy in the tub shouted in unison, "No, no way." I looked at the phone, then back at the bathtub. The little boy averted his gaze. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, then pleaded in a tiny voice, "Can I just stay for one day? I want to know what it feels like to have a dad." Those words pricked my heart like a needle, making it impossible for me to say no. I thought about my own son, who had grown up without a mother by his side. Did he also secretly wish for a mom? Just then, my son on the phone happily cheered. What a coincidence. I don't have a mom. But the real reason I want to stay is because there's so much good food here. I was both annoyed and amused, wishing I could reach through the phone and flick his forehead. This silly kid, he gets taken to a stranger's house and is actually happy about it. Zero sense of danger. Isn't he afraid of being kidnapped? As if they had planned it beforehand. The two boys begged together, "Please, Dad. Dad, just this once. Please, sir, just for one day." I was taken aback by how in sync they were looking at those two pairs of expectant eyes. I really couldn't bring myself to refuse. I let out a helpless sigh. "All right, as long as you're both safe, just for one day. Okay, tomorrow night you two are switching back." Getting my approval, my son happily hung up the phone. I looked at the little boy in the bathtub, my voice unconsciously softening. "What's your name?" "Mom calls me Chin Chin," he replied in a soft voice. "So, does Chin Chin usually sleep by himself? Or does someone sleep with you?" Chin Chin shook his head slightly, like a little old man. He spoke with a maturity far beyond a 6-year-old. "I started sleeping on my own when I was 3. I don't need anyone to keep me company. I'm very brave." I felt a pang of sorrow. This was the difference. Even now, my son still needs me to tell him a story and pat his back before he can fall asleep. Yet, Chin Chin had learned to be independent at such a young age. After turning off the lights, I stepped out of Chin Chin's room and stood at the door, watching him carefully. I just realized that even though Chin Chin and my son look exactly alike, their vibes are completely different. My son is energetic, talkative, and his eyes are full of innocent naivety. But Chin Chin, he's incredibly quiet and composed. His eyes carry a maturity that doesn't belong to his age, as if he had been shackled by expectations too early. I comforted myself thinking the resemblance was just a coincidence. Doesn't the internet always have stories about strangers looking exactly alike? There's probably nothing more to it, but I never expected that. This so-called coincidence was actually a prearranged setup by fate. The next morning, I made the breakfast. Chun-Chin liked watching him take small polite bites. My heart melted. I decided that today, I would try to fulfill all his wishes so he could fully experience just once the joy of having a dad around. You can pick anywhere you want to go today. I'll go with you wherever you choose. Okay. Chun-Chin's eyes instantly lit up like stars suddenly bursting into light in the night sky. His little face was full of disbelief. Really? Anywhere? Yeah, I wouldn't lie to you. I want to go to the zoo and then the amusement park. Can we? Chun-Chin's voice carried a cautious hope, afraid I might say no. Seeing me nod firmly, he finally acted like a normal kid, cheering happily, a brilliant smile blooming on his little face. My heart ached a little. It seemed his mom really rarely took him to places like this, to the point where even such simple joys had become something incredibly precious. Our first stop was the zoo. Along the way, the light in Chun-Chin's eyes never faded. The usually quiet boy, upon seeing the tigers, lions, giraffes, and red pandas, actively pulled my hand, excitedly telling me about the habits of these animals and their traits. His little mouth chattered away non-stop, his eyes brimming with curiosity about the world. Leaving the zoo, we headed to the amusement park. He dragged me to ride the bumper cars over and over again, bumping around until I was dizzy, and my stomach was churning. Unable to take it anymore, I raised my hands and surrendered. Chun-Chin, spare me, please. If we bump anymore, I'm going to throw up. Chun-Chin wasn't dizzy at all. He patted my back with his little hand, his face dead serious. But I still want to play. This is so much fun. The sun gradually set. The evening light stretching our shadows. My legs were so like jelly I could barely stand. I held Chun-Chin's hand as we slowly walked out of the amusement park. I squatted down to look him in the eye and asked gently, "Did you have fun today?" Chun-Chin nodded vigorously, then shook his head slightly. Confused, I looked at him. Why are you both happy and not happy? Chun-Chin's eyes gradually turned red, his little nose sniffled, and his voice choked up as if he was about to cry. I know you're about to take me home. Today was really fun, but thinking about not being able to see you again makes me really sad. He hesitated for a moment. Then reached out his little hand to gently tug at my shirt, muttering softly, "It'd be so great if you were my dad." My heart ached and my eyes stung a little. I reached out and rubbed his soft hair, comforting him gently. "If we ever get the chance to meet again, I'll take you out to play again, okay?" Chun-Chin nodded hard, tears finally slipping out uncontrollably, but he still tried his best to smile at me. Following the address Chun-Chin gave me, I drove to a high-end villa district. The security here was incredibly strict, and every villa was massive. Clearly, a place where only the wealthiest in the capital lived. I stood at the main gate, called my son's smartwatch, and whispered, "Sneak out when no one's looking, so Chun-Chin can hurry inside. You two switch back secretly. Don't let anyone find out." As Chun-Chin walked through the gate, he turned back and waved hard at me, his little face full of reluctance to leave. Looking at those two nearly identical little faces, my heart felt both bitter and tender, an incredibly indescribable feeling. Right at that moment, through the gap in the villa's gate, a familiar figure was walking toward the entrance. My heart skipped a beat, and the blood in my veins seemed to freeze. It was her, the famous young heiress of the Bai family in the capital, Bai Qingguang. Almost on instinct, I grabbed my son's still waving little hand, turned around, and walked away. My pace was fast as if I were fleeing for my life. I was such an idiot. How could there be so many coincidences in this world? Two kids who look exactly alike are incredibly in sync. And even like the same things, this wasn't just looking alike. This was a blood connection. The moment I saw Bai Qingguang, I understood everything. Chun-Chin was the other twin son she had given birth to, and the baby I saved 5 years ago. The one I accidentally brought home through a twist of fate was my own biological son, separated for 5 years. I never dreamed that I would meet my other son again in such an absurd and dramatic way. I walked with a sense of unease, my mind in complete turmoil. Back then, I took my son and fled overseas, thinking I'd never have anything to do with the Bai family ever again. But fate dragged me back to the capital. Dragged me right back to her, lost in thought. My son skipped over and grabbed my hand. The little chatterbox starting up again. "Dad, this experience was so magical. He and I look exactly alike, and his mom didn't even notice. He has a mom but no dad. And I have a dad but no mom. What a coincidence, right, Dad? You have no idea. His mom is super strict. He has to wake up at 5:00 a.m. Piano lessons at 9 o'clock, English at 10:30, and a logic class at 2 p.m. Just now, she even made me memorize this super long essay and said I couldn't eat if I didn't memorize it. Good thing you came to switch me back in time, or I really would have starved tonight. The more I listened, the angrier I got, my fists clenching tight. Chen is only 6 years old. At an age where he should be active and playful, yet Bai Qingguang forces him into so many classes. No wonder he's so mature at such a young age. He was forced to be that way. Looking down at the carefree boy beside me, I suddenly felt a deep resentment toward my past self. Why was I so useless? Why? Didn't I have the ability to take both babies with me so they could grow up by my side without being separated, without having to endure such strict discipline? But reality is cruel. Back then, I had nothing. Raising one child took everything I had. I simply couldn't afford to take care of both. Leaving one with the Bai family at least ensured he wouldn't have to worry about food or clothes and would have the best material life possible. That was the best choice I could come up with at the time. But thinking about how unhappy Chen has been all these years, guilt washed over me like a tidal wave, drowning me in the blink of an eye. 3 months passed. The kindergarten announced a parent-child sports day on Friday, requiring parents to attend. I specifically pushed all my work aside to clear my schedule for that day, wanting to fully support my son in the activities. Early Friday morning, my son and I put on the matching tracksuits we had prepared in advance. The little guy was full of energy, patting his chest and declaring loudly, "Dad, we have to win first place today." Seeing his fiery fighting spirit, I smiled and nodded. "All right, I'll give it my all with you." The first game was the three-legged race. Just as the referee bent down to help tie our legs together, I turned my head and suddenly my son was gone. My heart clenched and I hurriedly looked around only to see a familiar little figure walking quickly toward me. I pulled him right behind me, putting on a stern face, pretending to be mad. "Who was it that said they wanted to win first place today? If you keep running around, we're going to come in dead last." Surprisingly, he didn't talk back like he usually did. He just looked up with bright eyes and nodded firmly. "No running around. First place." The moment the whistle blew, we lifted our legs and dashed toward the finish line. Unexpectedly, we were incredibly in sync. Our footsteps perfectly matched without stumbling even once. Smoothly taking first place. We hugged each other and cheered, overjoyed beyond words. The second game, balloon relay. We squeezed the balloon between us, moving carefully, but incredibly fast. Once again, winning in the shortest amount of time. My son jumped for joy, his little face beaming with pride. Just like that, we went on a winning streak, sweeping the championship in every single event. But I gradually started to feel like something was off. This kid next to me. Even though he looked exactly like my son, his personality was way too calm and his movements were much more fluid. I tested the waters and called out, "Chen." The little boy answered crisply. As soon as the word left his mouth, he realized his mistake. Quickly covering his mouth with his hands, his eyes full of regret, his face turning bright red. I rubbed my temples. Well, that makes it obvious. Coincidentally, both kids were wearing the exact same outfit today, and even their hair was styled identically. Without looking closely, it was impossible to tell them apart. Chen hesitated for a long time before gathering the courage to apologize softly. "I just transferred to this kindergarten recently, and I only found out today at the sports meet that we are in the same class." He saw me earlier and asked if I wanted to switch places and play until it was over. I agreed. "I'm sorry, sir," he whispered. "So, can I still come find you guys to play in the future?" The rejection was on the tip of my tongue, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it. Besides, I was already planning to transfer my son to another school anyway. If this went on too long, Bai Qingguang would eventually find out. The prolonged silence made Chen understand what I meant. The light in his eyes slowly faded, tears welling up in the corners of his eyes. He turned his face away, wiping his tears hard with the back of his hand, then turned back, forcing a stiff smile at me. "I understand." Seeing him try so hard to be strong, my heart ached in waves, but there was nothing I could do. Walking toward the kids' class area, I spotted Bai Qingguang immediately standing out in the crowd. In my memory, she only ever cared about company business. Cold and arrogant, I thought the one accompanying Chin would be a nanny or a maid. I never expected her to come in person. My son stood obediently by her side, completely dropping his usual mischievous act, acting incredibly well behaved, not making a fuss at all. Last time, I was too busy running away to get a good look at her. This time, hiding in the crowd, I quietly observed Bai Qingguang. She was still the same as before, standing aloof and proud among the people, like a flower that could only be admired from afar, making hearts flutter, but keeping everyone at a distance. Thinking back on it now, the fact that I was able to get close to her back then, that I was able to share that past with her, it really felt like a dream. I waved at my son in the distance. He saw me, cautiously glanced at Bai Qingguang next to him, and while she wasn't looking, quickly slipped away and ran over to me. I lightly flicked his forehead, pretending to be mad. "You've got some nerve tricking your own dad." My son clutched his forehead, muttering a protest. I nudged Chin toward Bai Qingguang, took my son's hand, and turned to leave. Right then, Bai Qingguang's voice rang out from behind, cold and oppressive. "Chin, where are you running off to now?" She was still the same, always managing her child like an employee, always forcing adult standards on him. Children aren't wooden dolls or machines. He has his own thoughts, his own feelings, but Bai Qingguang never understood. Chin mumbled his explanation. "Mom, I needed to use the bathroom. I promise I won't run off again. I don't know who you take after nowadays. You're usually so well behaved, but today you're acting like you've got ants in your pants fidgeting nonstop. Do you not have enough homework? When we get home tonight, copy all your lessons twice." I was so furious. My whole body trembled. I was absolutely livid. Was it because Chin looked a bit like me that she was taking all her past resentment toward me out on the child? At that moment, a familiar male voice chimed in. "Did you find Chin?" It was Jing Xian's voice. I narrowed my eyes. A deep sense of disgust welling up inside me. It seems he's been by Bai Qingguang's side all these years, doing quite well for himself with his status rising higher and higher to the point where he could even attend the parent-child sports day with Chin. Seeing Chin's teary eyes, he immediately put on a gentle facade and said softly, "Chin, don't blame President Bai. Can't you see she was worried sick about you? We've been splitting up to look for you this whole time. Thank goodness you're okay." After saying that, he turned to persuade Bai Qingguang. "President Bai, Chin is still young. It's perfectly normal for him to be a bit energetic. Please calm down." With just a few words, he managed to ease the tense atmosphere. Back when I was still with the Bai family, he was always like this, too. Mild-mannered on the outside, but full of schemes on the inside, targeting me at every turn and driving a wedge between me and Bai Qingguang. I held my son's hand and continued walking out, but I felt a sharp gaze piercing right into my back. "Stop right there." My heart skipped a beat. She couldn't be calling me, right? I didn't stop and kept walking straight ahead. "The one in the blue tracksuit, I'm talking to you." I took a quick look around among the crowd of parents at the sports day. I was the only one wearing a blue tracksuit. I instantly went on high alert. Did she actually recognize me like this? Why was she singling me out? As soon as I turned around, Bai Qingguang's voice rang out again, carrying an undeniable authority. I whispered to my son, "Hide well. Don't come out." The sun was blazing today, so I had purposely worn a hat and sunglasses before leaving the house, covering myself up completely. There was no way she could recognize me. I turned around, lifted my head, and pretended to ask calmly, "Did you need something from me?" Hearing the commotion, Jing Xian also walked over. Handing the child to the nanny, he stepped up beside Bai Qingguang and looked me up and down. "I just saw Chin run over to you. Do you know him?" Bai Qingguang narrowed her eyes, scrutinizing me closely. Her eyes were brimming with suspicion. "I thought I wouldn't be noticed with a crowd between us." I forgot she was the heir to the Bai family. She had been navigating the business world since childhood, making her extremely sharp to anything unusual around her. Lowering my voice, I deliberately made it sound hoarse and spoke with utmost sincerity. "That kid was running so fast, he almost tripped. I just caught him and was about to leave when you called me. If you don't believe me, you can check the security cameras." Perhaps because my words sounded so genuine and coupled with the fact that this was a school where nothing bad could really happen. Bai Qingguang nodded, turning around to leave. Jing Xian, however, put on an arrogant face, lifted his chin, and said to me, "The kid you just helped is the son of the Bai family's heir. Consider yourself lucky. President Bai cares deeply about the child. Here's a check. You can withdraw 30,000 yuan at any bank. Consider it a thank you gift. I sneered inwardly. Did he really think of himself as the master of the Bai family? My face remained calm and expressionless as I flatly refused. It was nothing. Anyone would have helped. There's no need for a reward. He let out a scoff, his face full of disdain. Fine, then get lost. I turned around, taking my son's hand, ready to leave. Bai Qingguang, who had already walked away, suddenly turned back. Her gaze landed on me as she asked coldly, "What class is your child in? How old is he?" I was instantly on high alert. The school transfer paperwork wasn't finished yet. I absolutely couldn't give her his real information. I casually made up a class and age, trying my best to keep my eyes calm. Bai Qingguang didn't say a word. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I saw a brief flash of disappointment cross her eyes. Seeing this, Jing Xian asked, "President Bai, is there a problem with him?" Bai Qingguang snapped out of it, shook her head slightly, and returned to her usual cold, arrogant demeanor. As she turned to leave, Jing Xian hurriedly followed after her. Before leaving, he shot me a cold, piercing glare. Once we got home, I called my son over. I hesitated for a long time before finally speaking up. "We have to transfer to a different kindergarten." My son didn't understand. He widened his eyes, looking incredibly wronged. "Why? I'm having so much fun here. Chen Xin is in my class. If I transfer, I won't get to see him anymore." The two brothers had already developed a deep bond. This was the undeniable connection of blood. No one could sever it. He grabbed my hand, pleading endlessly. "Dad, I don't want to be away from Chen Xin. We like the same things. We're best friends when we play together. I don't want to lose my best friend." Seeing my son look so sad, my heart ached terribly. It was so rare for him to find a friend he clicked with so well. If I rejected him now, he would definitely be deeply hurt. But I couldn't risk it. If Bai Qingguang found out that my son and Chen Xin looked exactly alike, all my secrets would be exposed. When that happened, even my right to live peacefully with my son would be completely stripped away. I looked at him with guilt in my eyes and explained softly. "I'm sorry. Because of my work, you have to change schools. But I promise you, when I have time later, I'll bring you back to play with him." "Okay." To my surprise, my son nodded understandingly. He stopped crying and making a fuss. I immediately started preparing the transfer paperwork, but I never in a million years expected that on the very day I took my son to process the transfer, he would suddenly disappear. Panic instantly set in. My mind went completely blank. Countless terrifying thoughts flashed through my head. Had Bai Qingguang found out? Did she send someone to take my son away? But thinking it over carefully, I quickly dismissed the thought. If she had really found out, she wouldn't be this quiet about it. She would have definitely come straight to my door. I was going crazy, searching everywhere where my son could have gone. Not at the kindergarten. Not at his favorite playground, not at the park in our neighborhood. I even drove straight to Bai Qingguang's villa, only to find chaos at the front gates. Servants were running in and out, looking absolutely panicked. My heart sank. I instantly realized that Chen Xin had disappeared, too. Just as I was frantically about to call the police, I suddenly saw them across the street. Two identical-looking children holding hands, skipping across the road, and right around the blind corner. A large truck was speeding straight toward them. The driver honked furiously, but there was no way he could brake in time. My ears started ringing. Without a second thought, my blood running cold. I threw myself forward recklessly, using every ounce of my strength. I pulled both kids tightly into my arms and lunged forward. As we rolled, the truck let out an ear-piercing screech, grazing my back before speeding past. The gust of wind it left behind whipped painfully against my face. My face was deathly pale, my heart pounding out of my chest. I looked down at the two children in my arms, trembling with fear. Thank God. Thank God they were okay. Why did you sneak out? Do you have any idea how worried we were? With so many cars on the road. Do you know how dangerous that was just now? If something had happened to you, how were we supposed to live? Once I was sure the kids were unharmed, I put on a stern face and scolded them harshly, knowing they had done wrong. The two kids burst into frightened tears. Chen Xin sobbed. We knew you were transferring him to another school, even though you said you'd bring him to play later. We were scared we'd never see each other again. We just wanted to have one really fun day together, but we were afraid you wouldn't agree. So, we used our smartwatches to secretly plan this and snuck out together. I was both angry and amused. I really didn't know what to do with these two little rascals. It turned out they had secretly exchanged contact info behind my back and planned a secret meetup. Two pairs of big tear-filled eyes blinked up at me full of pleading. Dad, since we're already out, can you take us out to play for the day and then take Chin Chin home? Please, mister. I really like being with you guys. When I heard you were leaving, I was sad all night. Just one day of playing. Is that okay? I stayed silent for a moment. I could bear to say no to my own son. But looking at Chen Chin's hopeful, sorrowful eyes, I really couldn't bring myself to do it. Then call your mom. Tell her you got lost and I found you. I'll take you home later. Don't let your mom worry. Even though Bai Qingguang was very strict with Chen Chin, I could tell she truly cared about him and worried about his safety. Chen Chin nodded obediently and lifted his smartwatch to call Bai Qingguang. Bai Qingguang's furious voice immediately came through the phone. You've got some nerves sneaking out and getting lost. Then just don't come back. Jing Xian's voice followed right after, sounding helpless. Chen Chin, your mom is just saying that because she's angry. When you went missing, she cancelled a crucial 20 billion yuan meeting and rushed back to find you. Knowing you're with a stranger, of course, she's worried. What if you ran into a bad person? Be a good boy and tell me where you are. Your mom and I will come pick you up. Chen Chin looked at me for help. I lowered my voice and spoke into the phone. Don't worry. The person Chen Chin is with is me. We met at the kindergarten sports day. Chen Chin and my son are having a great time playing. I'll bring him home later. Jing Xian refused to let it go. His tone full of suspicion. Who knows if you're targeting Chen Chin because of his status and deliberately lured him out? Bring him back right now. Otherwise, I'm calling the cops. Just then, Bai Qingguang's cold voice rang out again. With just a few short words, bring him back tonight. After saying that, she hung up. The two kids immediately cheered loudly. I could only smile helplessly. All right. All right. Even if I couldn't make up for the fatherly love Chen Chin was missing, before I left, I should at least let him have the time of his life today. I took him to the arcade to play the claw machine that Chen Chin loved so much. I was pretty good at it and managed to win a whole bag full of plushies. So many that my son couldn't even hold them all. Exhausted and hungry from playing, we found a restaurant to grab a bite. My son couldn't handle spicy food. Usually when I cooked, I made 2 portions. A spicy one for me and a non-spicy one for him. I didn't know what Chen Chin's tastes were like, so I ordered both mildly spicy and non-spicy dishes. To my surprise, Chen Chin's taste was exactly like mine. We both absolutely love spicy food. After we ate our fill, I drove Chen Chin to the front gates of the villa. I urged him to hurry inside. Hurry on in before your mom starts worrying again. Chen Chin tugged at my hand, acting spoiled. Mister, can you walk me right to the door? My heart melted. I let him pull me all the way to the front door of the villa. As soon as we reached the door, I saw Bai Qingguang and Jing Xian standing there. Neither of them looked happy. My footsteps faltered. Feeling a bit annoyed inwardly, Bai Qingguang said coldly to Chen Chin. You've played all day. Go inside and make up for your missed homework. It seems there's nothing else. The child has been brought back safely. I'll be taking my leave. With that, I turned to walk away. But Bai Qingguang kept staring at me. Staring so hard it gave me goosebumps. I didn't dare stay any longer and quickened my pace. But just as I turned, Jing Xian sneered, his tone full of hostility. You keep showing up in front of Chen Chin time and time again. What exactly are you trying to pull? I explained helplessly. It was honestly just a coincidence. Believe it or not, I guarantee I'll stay far away from you all from now on. I'll never show up again. Hearing those words, the light in Chen Chin's eyes instantly dimmed. His little face was filled with disappointment. Seeing it made my heart ache, but I had no other choice. Only by staying away from them could my son and I live a peaceful, safe life. Smooth talker. You think I'd actually believe that? I knew from our last meeting that you were up to no good. You want to use Chen Chin to get close to President Bai, don't you? Gold-digging men like you. I've seen plenty of them. Jing Xian radiated provocation from head to toe. Just like in the past, whenever another man appeared beside Bai Qingguang, he would become incredibly hostile, using every trick in the book to ruin things. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him, I said coldly. Believe what you want. I'm leaving. Right at that moment, Bai Qingguan, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke up, ordering the bodyguards beside her, hold him down. I struggled desperately, glaring at her angrily. There's no law against wearing sunglasses. I already told you I don't want to get close to you. The last 2 times were complete accidents. Let me go. I said I'd never show up again. Jing Xian smirked and stepped forward, reaching out to snatch my sunglasses. Only shady people are afraid of showing their faces. Let's see who you really are. Right then, my son dashed out from behind me. His tiny body shoved hard against the bodyguard. His little fists punching and kicking wildly at Jing Xian, crying loudly, he screamed, "Don't bully my dad. Get away." With that, he spread his little arms wide, desperately shielding me like a brave little wild beast. When Jing Xian and the bodyguards got a clear look at my son's face, they were all stunned. They cried out in shock, "Young master." Hearing the commotion, Bai Qingguan turned her head. The moment she saw my son, she froze completely. Her face went pale, her eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Chen Qin forcefully yanked his hand away from the nanny and also ran over to shield me. Spreading his arms wide to protect me, he shouted loudly, "No one is allowed to hurt him. Hurting them means hurting me." 2 identical tiny figures standing on my left and right, shielding me. Everyone was completely stunned. Why are there 2 young masters? Jing Xian was also completely dumbfounded. The smile froze on his lips. His eyes were filled with absolute bewilderment. As for me, I saw it very clearly. Bai Qingguan lost her composure and stood up straight. Her eyes were trembling uncontrollably. Of course, she knew. These 2 children were both born from her own womb, her own flesh and blood. I let out a soft sigh. No more hiding. I slowly reached up and took off my sunglasses. Seeing my face, Jing Xian immediately cried out in shock. His face turned incredibly ugly. Bai Qingguan hurried toward me, reaching out a trembling hand wanting to touch my face. But when she saw my cold gaze, she slowly pulled it back. Her eyes still couldn't bear to leave my face, carrying the longing and agony of the past 5 years. "Lu Jinwan, I've been looking for you for 5 years." Just this one sentence made my son look at me in confusion. Then look over at Bai Qingguan. His little face was full of bewilderment. Finally, he couldn't hold back and asked in a small voice, "Do you know my daddy, miss?" Bai Qingguan squatted down. Her trembling hands gently caressed my son. Her tears finally fell uncontrollably. Her voice was choked and trembling. "I finally get to see you. Your eyes and brows look just like mommy's." I let out a cold snort. My tone was icy. "Now that you've seen him, we have to go." With that, I pulled my son along, ready to leave. A group of bodyguards immediately stepped forward, blocking our path. I frowned, glaring coldly at Bai Qingguan. What is the meaning of this? Bai Qingguan dropped her usual cold demeanor, raising her voice with extreme gentleness. "You've been hiding for 5 years. Now that we've finally met, you still want to leave." Relying on my strength alone, there was no way I could take my son away today. I turned my head and smiled bitterly. "Since you've already found me, what's the point of hiding? But our belongings are still at the old house. I'll take him back to get them." For Bai Qingguan to grow the Bai group to such heights, she wasn't easily fooled. She smiled faintly, her tone incredibly firm. "Lu Jinguan, I'm not that stupid. I went through so much trouble to find you. What if I let you run away again?" Jing Xian immediately chimed in. "Let me follow him. I'll keep an eye on him and the kid. There's no way they'll escape." Bai Qingguan stayed silent for a moment, then nodded gently. I breathed a sigh of relief. Jing Xian had let me go back then. Maybe he would help me this time, too. Just as I turned around to leave, Chen Chen suddenly grabbed the hem of my shirt. He muttered softly, "I want to go, too." I looked down and gently comforted him, "Be good. Wait for me to finish packing, and I'll come back to pick you up." But Chen Chen stubbornly shook his head. His little face showed absolute determination. "No, I want to go with you guys." Left with no choice, I looked at Bai Qingguan. "We're going back to pack. It's not convenient to bring Chen Chen along. You should take him home." Who would have thought Bai Qingguan would just push Chen Chen toward me? She said coldly. "Fine. Jing Xian can just bring him back later." On the way, the 2 little guys surrounded me, chattering nonstop, asking why they looked exactly the same. Why one stayed with daddy and the other stayed with mommy. I closed my eyes, pretending not to hear.
I absolutely did not want to return to Bai Qingguang's side. I didn't want to get dragged into the messy drama of a wealthy family again.
If I admitted my identity now, it would cause too much pain for the two children.
Seeing that I wasn't answering, the two kids turned to ask Jing Xian.
Jing Xian stayed silent for a few seconds before suddenly speaking up. His tone was filled with resentment and bitterness.
Why did you come back? I gave you a way out back then so you could go far away. Do you have any idea?
I was this close to winning her heart.
I was about to have everything.
Before I could even say a word, Chen Chen's eyes widened, his face full of confusion.
Uncle Xian, what are you talking about?
Jing Xian suddenly snapped. He yelled fiercely.
You little brat. You have no right to say my name. I've had enough of you all. Since you father and sons are finally reunited, then you can all disappear forever today.
My heart clenched.
Knowing something was wrong, I immediately reached out to grab the steering wheel.
Both kids were in the car.
I had to keep them safe.
But Jing Xian came prepared. He pulled an iron hammer from under the seat and smashed it hard into my shoulder.
An excruciating pain washed over me. My vision went dark. I collapsed into the back seat.
The wound on my shoulder bled profusely. Warm blood seeped through my clothes and trickled down. The two children shrieked in terror.
They scrambled over to me,
using their tiny hands to press against my bleeding wound, crying out, "Daddy, Uncle." I forced my eyes open, looking at Jing Xian's crazed expression. My voice was weak. "You're insane. Even if you hate me, that child is still her own flesh and blood.
The heir to the Bai family. Aren't you afraid she'll hate you?"
Jing Xian's face twisted viciously. These two little bastards deserved to be her children.
Back when she gave birth to them, I wanted to strangle them to death.
Too bad she kept such a close eye on them.
Now the chance is finally here.
Once I get rid of you all, I'll stay by her side while she's grieving and rightfully step into the wealthy elite.
Everything the Bai family owns will be mine. It'll all become reality very soon.
With that, he stopped the car right at the edge of the cliff. His eyes were brimming with murderous intent.
It's time for you to say goodbye to this world. In your next life, don't get in my way.
He slammed the car door shut and pushed the car from behind with all his might toward the cliff. Even though the two kids were young, they knew Jing Xian was trying to kill them.
My youngest son tightly gripped Chen Chen's shirt. Tears streamed down his face like broken pearls, especially Chen Chen.
His lips were trembling uncontrollably. He couldn't even make a sound as he cried. Perhaps he had never imagined that the Uncle Xian who always brought them candy, who was always so gentle with them, would suddenly turn into this monster. Turn into a bad guy who wanted to take their lives. I used the last of my strength to pull the trembling children into my arms. The jolting of the car tore at the wound on my back with agonizing pain. Warm blood seeped through my clothes and trickled down, pooling into a dark stain on the seat. I kept repeating in a hoarse voice, "Don't be afraid. Daddy's here. Daddy's here." While using all my strength to kick the car door, clang! Clang! The deafening sound of metal crashing echoed inside the sealed cabin. But the door seemed welded shut, not budging an inch. With every kick, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. The view of the cliff outside the window grew clearer and clearer. The cold wind whipped small pebbles against the glass, making a harsh grating sound. Below the cliff was a bottomless abyss wrapped in thick fog like a giant pitch-black mouth waiting to swallow us whole. Jing Xian's hands gripping the steering wheel bulged with visible veins. A twisted smile crept onto his lips. His foot slammed relentlessly on the gas pedal. The car's speed was terrifyingly fast. The car slid inch by inch toward the cliff. The rear wheels were already hanging off the edge. It could plummet at any second. Right at this most critical moment, the massive roar of a car engine echoed from the distance, tearing through the valley's silence like thunder. A blinding beam of headlight shot straight toward us, forcing Jing Xian to instinctively squint. Then, Bai Qingguang's furious roar pierced through the wind, echoing across the valley, filled with despair, rage, and terror. Every word carried immense weight. "Jing Xian, you dare touch my man and my children, I'll make you pay." The next second, her blue car shot forward like an arrow, slamming violently into the side of our car. A deafening crash shattered the air. The car shook violently. Our car was knocked away from the cliff's edge and crashed heavily onto the ground. Jing Xian stumbled backward again and again, knocked off balance by the immense force of the impact. His face instantly turned deathly pale. Panic filled his eyes. Knowing his plan had completely failed, he abruptly spun around, running for his life down the mountain. desperate to escape, but he had barely taken a few steps before being surrounded by police from all sides.
Over a dozen officers closed in, guns drawn, their faces stern, shouting, "Freeze! Hands in the air! We are the police!"
Jing Xian refused to give up. He struggled frantically, swinging his fists in resistance, but he was quickly subdued by the officers. A cold click rang out, handcuffs locked tightly around his wrists, locking away all his wild ambitions, his jealousy, and his madness. He looked up at Bai Qingguang, his eyes brimming with resentment and bitterness. He screamed, "Qingguang, I did all of this for you.
I love you so much.
Why are you helping this pathetic poor loser?"
Bai Qingguang didn't even spare him a glance.
Her eyes were locked entirely on me and the kids trapped in the car. Her face was as pale as a sheet. She rushed over, calling my name as she ran. Her voice trembled, laced with sobs.
Lu Jingguan, hang in there. Are the kids okay?" The next second, Jing Xian was pinned to the ground by the police.
The handcuffs on his wrist gleamed harshly in the moonlight. He suddenly threw his head back, laughing loudly, a bleak and manic sound.
"Lu Jingguan, you think you've won? Do you have any idea?
5 years ago, when you took that kid away, I slipped something into his diaper.
Something you could never ever guess."
Bai Qingguang abruptly turned around and slapped him hard across the face.
"What did you do?" "What did I do?" Blood trickled from the corner of Jing Xian's mouth. He laughed even more maniacally. "I'm not telling. I want you all to live in fear for the rest of your lives. Ha ha."
Bai Qingguang looked at me, her face deathly pale. She frantically searched through the two kids' clothes, checking their diapers over and over again, but she found absolutely nothing. Her voice trembled.
"What on earth did he put in there?"
The wound on my back hurt so much my vision went dark, but I still grabbed her hand. The doctor said, "We need to get the kids to the hospital for a full checkup first." In the ambulance, I looked at their familiar little faces.
That sentence kept echoing in my mind. Once at the hospital, Bai Qingguang used all her connections.
She had them get full body x-rays in the middle of the night, screened their blood for toxins, and did everything humanly possible. By 4 a.m., the results were out.
Everything was completely normal.
I breathed a sigh of relief, but the thorn in my heart still couldn't be removed. Bai Qingguang sat on a bench in the hallway, holding her head in her hands. Her shoulders trembled slightly. She looked up. Her eyes were as red as a rabbit's. Her voice was hoarse.
"I'm sorry. This is all my fault. I stayed silent for a long time. Finally, I just said, let's focus on recovering first. We'll talk later." My tightly wound nerves suddenly relaxed. The pain in my back and shoulder crashed over me like a tidal wave.
The wound had completely torn open, soaking through my shirt. My vision began to blur and fade to black. The sound of the two kids crying grew distant.
I could feel my strength slipping away.
Right before I closed my eyes completely, I only saw Bai Qingguang lunging toward the stretcher.
Tears streaming down her face. Absolute terror written all over her. She kept calling my name.
Her voice cracked, so hoarse it was barely audible.
"Hurry, get a doctor. Get him to the central hospital immediately. Get the best doctors. The best medicine."
Her voice trembled.
Her hands were shaking, too. She couldn't even hold the kids steady.
"My children, my man.
Nothing can happen to them. If anything happens to them, I'll make everyone pay with their lives."
When I opened my eyes again, the glaring white light made me instinctively squint.
I was lying in a hospital bed. My entire body ached and felt completely drained.
The wounds on my back and shoulder throbbed with pain. Every breath aggravated the injuries, hurting so much I sucked in a sharp breath of cold air.
I slowly turned my head.
On the two hospital beds beside me, a child was sleeping soundly in each.
My eldest son and Chen Chen were lying right next to me.
There were still dried tear streaks at the corners of their mouths.
Their breathing was steady and even. Seeing them so peaceful, my heart softened completely.
As long as they were okay, any injury I suffered was worth it. I gently raised my hand, wanting to rub their little heads, but I moved a little too sharply. A fierce pain shot through my back again.
Cold sweat instantly broke out. Just then, the hospital room door was gently pushed open. Bai Qingguang walked in.
Her eyes were completely bloodshot.
She had obviously stayed up all night. She was still wearing yesterday's disheveled suit.
Her hair was tied up messily. Gone was her usual arrogant demeanor, replaced by a haggard look, gentle and cautious. Seeing that I was awake, her eyes suddenly lit up as if she had just seen the light of the whole world.
She quickly walked over to the bed. Her movements were incredibly gentle, afraid of hurting me.
Her voice was soft, carrying a hesitant, probing tone.
"You're awake. How are you feeling? You have a mild concussion.
Your back has extensive abrasions and soft tissue damage.
You need to get plenty of rest. Absolutely do not make any sudden movements."
As for the kids, I had the head of pediatrics do a full checkup on them.
They were just a little spooked. Not a single scratch on them. Looking at her humble,
almost subservient demeanor, the memories I had buried for the past 5 years flooded my mind like a tidal wave.
It felt as vivid as if it had just happened yesterday.
Originally, I was just a poor student from a remote rural village.
My family was incredibly poor. I couldn't even afford my tuition.
Every day, I could only gnaw on plain steamed buns.
I couldn't even get a full meal.
It was Bai Qingguang who by chance during a charity sponsorship saw my situation on the list. Moved by my hard work, she took the initiative to fully sponsor me. She brought me from the countryside to the city, gave me a good life, provided me with the best learning environment. So I no longer had to worry about my next meal and could focus entirely on my studies to repay her kindness.
I studied like my life depended on it. I didn't dare slack off for a single second.
Every day, I was the first to arrive at class and the last to leave. I stayed up late studying, never relaxing for a moment. Finally, with outstanding grades, I was accepted into the major of high-end design, which the Bai group needed the most. I swore that after graduation, I would dedicate myself to helping her. I would spend my whole life repaying her kindness, spending every day together. My feelings for her gradually changed from initial gratitude and respect. It turned into a deep, uncontrollable love. But I was well aware of my status.
The gap between us was simply too vast.
She was the lofty young lady of high society,
the sole heir to the Bai family, holding immense wealth and power.
While I was just a guy with nothing to my name, just a poor kid from the countryside.
I was completely unworthy of her.
So, I always kept these feelings hidden deep in my heart.
I didn't dare speak of them. I didn't dare get too close.
I could only stand by her side and protect her in silence until Bai Qingguang took the initiative to find me. On a bright starry night with a blushing face, her eyes both shy and resolute, she tremblingly placed a kiss on my lips and confessed her love to me. She said she liked me, that she didn't care about the difference in our status.
That night, we were together. I thought I had finally grasped happiness. I thought we would be together forever.
But the very next day when she brought me back to the Bai family villa, her attitude completely changed. She started running hot and cold and distant.
She even indulged another sponsored student like me,
Jing Xian, letting him bully me however he pleased.
Countless times I sought her out to ask why.
I just wanted an explanation, but she always avoided me. She either had the servants block me at the door or just turn her back and walk away, never giving me a single chance to speak. I didn't understand what could have possibly happened overnight to make her change so drastically toward me.
Going from a gentle lover to a complete stranger. It wasn't until later when Bai Qingguang got pregnant.
I thought that having a child would completely erase the distance between us, that she would come back to me. That we'd have a complete home again, but it was all just my own wishful thinking. One day, out of nowhere, she ordered someone to lock me in the basement of the Bai family villa.
I wasn't allowed out.
No one was allowed to speak to me, completely isolating me from the outside world.
The basement was dark and damp. Water constantly seeped from the walls.
The corners were piled with old cardboard boxes reeking of mildew.
At night, it was so quiet I could only hear my own breathing and heartbeat. Like a freezing prison.
I replayed it in my mind over and over again, remembering how gentle she looked when she called my name, remembering the unwavering certainty when she confessed her feelings. Tears fell silently onto the freezing concrete floor, spreading into a small, damp patch.
My heart slowly withered away and went numb bit by bit.
I don't know how much time passed. Jing Xian casually opened the door and walked in, leaning against the doorframe, a mocking smirk on his lips. Looking down at me with arrogant, condescending eyes, like he was looking at an ant.
Lu Jingguan, stop dreaming. Bai Qingguang never loved you.
To her, you were just a fleeting novelty.
Something to toss away when she got bored. Let me tell you, she's already given birth. Twin boys.
The Bai family has their heirs now. A pathetic poor loser like you should know your place.
Get the hell out of her world. Stop being an eyesore here. I clenched my fists.
My nails dug so hard into my palms that they drew blood.
I glared at him and demanded, "Where is Qingguang? I want to see her. I want to ask her myself."
Jing Xian scoffed, his eyes full of absolute disdain.
"See her? Do you think you're worthy? She doesn't want to see you right now. Just looking at you makes her sick. I can let you go, but you have to promise me. You will never return to Jing City. You will never appear in front of her again. Otherwise, I'll make sure neither you nor your kid makes it out alive." I did whatever he said to let my child live. I had no choice but to compromise. Swallowing my pride and enduring the humiliation. Taking advantage of Bai Qingguang's weakness after childbirth under Jing Xian's arrangements, I took one of my twin sons and followed the route he provided. Fleeing Jing City overnight, going abroad to live in anonymity and seclusion.
On the train, I held the tiny baby wrapped in swaddling clothes, listening to the rhythmic clacking of the tracks, watching the scenery blur past the window.
Not knowing where the future would take us, I only had one thought in my mind.
Raise this child well. I would never bring up the past for the rest of my life. I wouldn't disturb Bai Qingguang's life.
I just wanted to live a peaceful life.
Now lying in this hospital bed, looking at the haggard and humble Bai Qingguang in front of me. All the grievances suppressed over the past 5 years. The resentment, the confusion, and the pain suddenly exploded. I couldn't hold it back any longer. I propped up my weak body to sit up slightly. The wound on my back hurt so much I broke into a cold sweat. I stared straight into her eyes, word by word. Every single syllable carrying a bone-chilling coldness and the agonizing pain I had buried for 5 years.
Bai Qingguang. If you hated me so much back then, if you felt I wasn't worthy of you, then why did you approach me first? Why did you kiss me first? Only to turn your back and run hot and cold with me. Do you have any idea how miserably I lived during that time? People mocked me behind my back.
They called me a country bumpkin trying to climb the social ladder, having delusional dreams of marrying into a wealthy family.
I could endure all those humiliations for you. I could bear it all. But why did you have someone lock me in that dark, damp basement, leaving me there to rot?
Ignoring whether I lived or died, I really don't understand. If you hated me that much, if you couldn't stand the sight of me, why did you let me go 5 years ago?
And why have you been desperately searching for me for the past 5 years? What exactly do you want?
Every questioning word was like a knife stabbing fiercely into Bai Chuang's heart.
Her face instantly turned deathly pale. Her body trembled violently. Tears suddenly welled up in her eyes. She grabbed my hand in a panic.
Her hands were freezing cold, shaking nonstop. Her voice choked with sobs.
"No, Lu Jingguan. It's not what you think. I never hated you. My love for you has never changed.
This was all Jin Xian's doing. He's liked me for a long time, and he was jealous that you had my love. So, he used every dirty trick in the book.
He carefully plotted to frame you. He forged an audio recording. He brought that recording to me.
It was full of spliced lines he fabricated, editing your voice to claim you pursued me only for the Bai family's fortune and planned to embezzle all Bai group assets. He even fabricated audio claiming you plotted to hurt me and leave me with nowhere to rest after death. At that time, I was both furious and terrified. I didn't want to believe it, but the recording Jin Xian faked was too real without a single flaw. I was blinded by jealousy and fear, but deep down, I couldn't bear to let you go.
I loved you too much. That's why I wanted to lock you in the basement to keep you by my side. I thought that as long as I kept you with me, you wouldn't be able to hurt me.
What happened in that basement is the decision I regret most in my entire life. Later, when you ran away and completely disappeared from my world, I searched for you like crazy. I searched the whole world. I used all of the Bai family's connections, all of our resources, but there wasn't a single trace of you. I even thought even if you really were after my money, even if you were really after the Bai family's assets, I wouldn't care. I'd give you everything the Bai family owns as long as you could come back to me. This time when Jin Xian said he wanted to bring you and the kids back, I felt uneasy. I just had a bad feeling about it. I told him to drive my car. There's a recording device installed in my car connected directly to my phone. Everything he said in that car I heard it all loud and clear. I called the police immediately and rushed over here. The only thought in my head was that I had to save you. Save my children. I was just a second away from losing you all forever. I really don't dare to think how I'd live without you guys. Her voice choked up, crying so hard she couldn't speak.
Tears fell drop by drop, landing on the back of my hand, scalding hot.
She reached out, wanting to touch my face, wanting to wipe the cold sweat from my face, but carefully pulled her hand back. She was afraid I would reject her. Afraid I would be disgusted by her, afraid I would push her away again. She looked at me, her eyes full of pleading, regret, and humility. Her voice was light as a feather, carrying a desperate hope. Lu Jingguan, the mistakes of the past were all my fault.
I know I broke your heart. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I will make it up to the kids too. I'll willingly do anything, more than willing. Our family of 4 will live a good life from now on. Okay? I'll never be stubborn again. And I won't listen to other people's poisonous words anymore. I will love you properly.
I will love our 2 children properly. I'll give all of you a complete happy and warm home.
Okay.
I gently pulled my hand back, avoiding her touch. I softly stroked the familiar little faces of my twin sons.
My heart was ice cold.
My tone was calm, but carried an unshakable resolve.
Bai Chuang.
The love I had for you has long been worn away by 5 years of misunderstandings, 5 years of suffering, 5 years of hiding, 5 years of longing.
It's all been worn away. There's nothing left and it can never be found again. The me right now doesn't want anything and I don't need anything.
I just want to live a good life with my kids, safe and sound, peaceful and quiet, simple and happy.
That's enough. As soon as I finished speaking, the 2 kids seemed to be woken up by our voices. They groggily opened their eyes. Seeing that I was awake, they instantly snapped awake.
Their eyes lit up and they happily threw themselves into my arms. Their warm, tiny bodies were soft and cuddly. They called out Daddy in unison with their adorable childish voices. Daddy's here, I happily replied to each of them, holding them tightly in my arms.
My nose stung. My eyes grew hot.
My heart felt both warm and achingly sad. Chen Qin obediently buried his face in my chest.
His little face full of insecurity and fear. With red eyes, he gently grabbed my hand, whispering between sobs, Daddy, are you going to leave? Do you not want Chen Qin anymore? Chen Qin will be so good. Chen Qin will listen to you. I'll study hard. I won't make you mad. I stayed silent for a moment.
Looking at his expectant yet fearful eyes, my heart melted, but I still gently nodded.
There are some paths you can only walk alone.
Some pains you can only bear by yourself.
Chen Qin's tears instantly fell drop by drop like a broken string of pearls.
He gripped my hand tightly, pleading desperately.
His voice choked up, Daddy, can you take Chen Qin with you? I don't want to be away from you. I want to live with you.
I want to play with my little brother.
I want to see you every single day. After saying that,
he gathered all his courage and turned to look at Bai Chuang, his little face showing a clear look of seriousness and determination.
He whispered, Mommy, can I go live with Daddy for a while? I'll be good and listen to him. I won't make Daddy mad. I'll miss you a lot.
I thought Bai Qingguan would object, that she would fiercely refuse like before, but she didn't hesitate at all.
She agreed immediately.
Her eyes were red. Her voice was incredibly gentle.
Okay, Mommy agrees to let you go with Daddy. I'll come visit you every week. I'll bring you yummy food and play with you. Okay.
Then she turned to look at me.
Her eyes overflowing with expectation and humility, carrying a careful plea.
Her voice was very soft, afraid of startling me.
Lu Jingguan, take me with you, too, okay? I want to take care of the kids with you. I want to give them a complete home. I want to make up for my mistakes. I want to love you properly.
I looked at her and gently shook my head. My tone was resolute, leaving no room for negotiation.
I'm sorry. I can't.
Her body suddenly swayed. Her face grew even paler. She hurriedly grabbed the edge of the hospital bed just to barely keep herself standing. The light in her eyes faded bit by bit, leaving only disappointment, sorrow, and despair. After recovering in the hospital for a full week, my body gradually recovered. On the day of my discharge, Bai Qingguang arrived at the hospital very early to help me pack my things.
Throughout the whole process, she was extremely cautious, not daring to say a single unnecessary word, not daring to make a single unnecessary movement. She feared making me angry, feared I would disappear again.
After being discharged, Chen Qin and I went back to the Bai family villa to get his luggage. Pushing open that familiar carved wooden door, the crystal chandelier in the living room was just as dazzling and grand as before. Yet it no longer carried the suffocating cold and scheming atmosphere of the past. It had gained a bit more of the breath of life, a touch of complete tenderness. Like a happy little bird, he skipped and ran up to the bedroom upstairs very quickly. He hugged a small teddy bear that had been washed until its color faded and ran back down. The bear's ear was slightly torn, but it was washed spotlessly clean and exceptionally well kept. Holding the bear up to me, his little face full of joy and pride. "Daddy, look, this is the teddy bear you secretly tucked in with me back then. I've always kept it with me. I hug it to sleep every night. I never lost it." I froze for a moment. Dusty memories came flooding back, remembering when Chin Chin was just born. While the servants weren't paying attention amidst a pile of expensive imported toys, I chose the softest, most comfortable, and most ordinary bear. I secretly tucked it into his swaddle, hoping it could grow up with him and give him a little warmth. I didn't expect that after 5 years, he had kept it all along, treating it like a treasure. Bai Qingguang followed behind us and quietly walked into the bedroom. She opened the wardrobe, took out Chen Chen's clothes one by one, folded them neatly. She carefully packed them into a suitcase printed with little bear patterns. Her movements were very gentle throughout the whole process. She didn't say a word. Only her eyes were red, brimming with tears, yet she tried her best to hold them back. Returning to our little home, even though it was just a small 3-bedroom apartment, not big or grand, lacking the luxury of the Bai family villa. It was filled with warmth everywhere, brimming with the breath of life, simple yet happy. Ever since Chin Chin moved in, the house was filled with laughter every day. The two kids chased each other around, played with toys together, watched cartoons together, shared snacks together. They went to school, and came home together. The bond between the brothers grew stronger every day, inseparable like shadow and form. Blood ties truly are something no one can sever. That morning, just as I brought breakfast to the table, the two brothers raced over, fighting over the biggest fried egg. They yelled, "I have to save it for Daddy. Daddy works so hard he has to eat the biggest piece. Daddy works the hardest." In the evening when I came home from work, the two kids threw themselves into my arms again, hugging my legs and acting spoiled. They told me all the fun things that happened at kindergarten, who teacher Zhang praised, who made new friends. At night when I sat on the sofa, the two kids leaned against me, one on each side. They pestered me to tell them bedtime stories. After one story, they'd beg for another until their eyelids grew heavy. They couldn't fight the sleepiness anymore and finally went obediently to their bedroom, looking absolutely adorable. Bai Qingguang came to visit the kids every week. I didn't stop her. After all, she is their biological mother. Emotionally and logically, I shouldn't refuse. Children can't lack a mother's love. Every time she came, she brought a ton of things. The snacks the kids liked, fresh imported fruits, beautiful new clothes, toys, comic books, stationery. She stuffed the cabinets in the house full of supplies. She even took the initiative to help me cook, tidy up the rooms, and clean the house. She organized everything neatly, spotlessly clean. Her cooking is amazing. The dishes perfectly suit my taste and the kids. She no longer has that arrogant air from years ago. She's cold yet gentle, capable, and thoughtful, just like an ordinary mother. Every time she's about to leave, she can't bear to walk away, standing at the door. She watches the two kids play for a long, long time, her eyes filled with reluctance and longing. Only when the kids wave goodbye, does she finally turn and leave, lingering at every step, her back looking lonely and lost. I know she's gradually changing, learning how to be a good mother, learning how to make up for her shortcomings with the kids. She is also learning how to make up for the pain she caused me. It's just that some wounds once inflicted can never go back to the way they were. A child's upbringing can't be without a father, nor can it be without a mother. Even though I can't forgive her past mistakes, I don't want the kids to lose their mother's love either. So, we just coexist peacefully like this. For the sake of the kids, we each find our own peace. Days like this pass for 2 months. I thought life would just continue peacefully like this. But that evening, Bai Qingguang arrived much earlier than usual, and her expression was off when she walked through the door. Her hands weren't like usual, carrying big and small bags, but instead tightly gripping her phone, her knuckles turning white. The two kids were building Legos in the living room, and seeing their mom arrive, they immediately rushed over to call her. She squatted down and hugged them, her smile somewhat forced, unable to hide the exhaustion and anxiety in her eyes. I leaned against the kitchen door, wiping my freshly washed hands, and asked her what happened. She told the kids to go play in their room, then walked up to me, staying silent for a long time before speaking. Her voice was tense. "Lu Jingwan, my dad knows." My heart skipped a beat, but I still pretended to be calm. "Knows what?" "Knows about the kids. Knows about your injury on your back. Knows Chen Chin is currently with you. Her voice grew softer and softer. This afternoon, he called me back to the Bai family mansion and flew into a rage. He said the Bai family's flesh and blood cannot wander outside and absolutely cannot stay with you.
She didn't continue, but I understood.
To him, I am just a worthless poor loser, a rural student he sponsored back in the day. Someone unworthy of stepping over the Bai family's threshold.
I let out a faint scoff. Is that so? So, what does he want to do?
Bai Qingguan looked up, her eyes red.
He wants me to bring both kids back. And from now on, I'm never allowed to see you again. He said he'll hire the best lawyers.
If I don't comply, he'll sue you for kidnapping the Bai family's heirs and send you to prison.
The towel in my hands dropped to the floor. Sue me for kidnapping.
Back then, it was clearly Jin Xian who let me leave, but there's absolutely no proof of that. The Bai family's power in the capital is something I am all too familiar with. For them to send an ordinary person to jail is as easy as crushing an ant.
You wouldn't agree to that, right?
I looked at her, my voice very soft, but carrying a probing tone.
Bai Qingguang's tears finally fell. She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. Of course, I wouldn't agree. But Lu Jingguan, you don't understand my dad. He's a man of his word.
He's already contacted lawyers and sent people to investigate your whereabouts over the past 5 years. He wanted to dig up any illegal activities you may have committed while abroad. He even said, if legal measures don't work, he has other ways. Those words about other ways felt like a bucket of ice water poured over my head.
What kind of foundation has the Bai family built to stand firm in the capital all these years? Do they rely solely on business tactics?
I took a deep breath, pulling my hand out of hers.
So you came today to tell me to brace myself. Either hand over the kids or wait to be destroyed. Right. No.
Bai Qingguang panicked, her voice cracking.
I came to tell you I won't let him get his way.
I've already contacted my legal team and there are shareholders in the Bai group who support me. If my dad insists on tearing us apart, I'll fight him to the bitter end. Saying that, she pulled a stack of documents from her bag and handed it to me.
This is a custody agreement I had my lawyer draft. I've already signed it.
It clearly states that the 2 kids will be raised by us jointly.
You have completely equal custody rights and no one has the right to take that away.
I looked down at the documents, my mind a tangled mess. The agreement was drafted very professionally. Every clause was written airtight. You could tell a lot of effort went into it. But I knew facing a colossal power like the Bai family, this piece of paper had absolutely no power to resist.
Bai Qingguan, have you ever thought if you stand on the same front as me, how your dad will treat you? I asked.
She froze, then forced a smile. At worst, he strips me of my CEO position at the Bai group, freezes my assets, or even kicks me out of the Bai family.
I don't care about any of that. I only care about you and the kids.
I opened my mouth wanting to say something, but in the end, no words came out.
That night, Bai Qingguan didn't go back.
She stayed and had dinner with the kids, bathed them, told them stories, and coaxed them to sleep. I sat in the living room watching her busy figure in the bedroom.
Indescribable emotions surging in my heart. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a ringing phone.
It was Bai Qingguang's phone. She answered it and her face instantly turned pale.
What's wrong? I asked.
She hung up, her lips trembling.
My dad sent people to your rented apartment. They claimed you're illegally occupying Bai family property and they're forcibly taking it back. Property management just called me saying all your belongings have been cleared out and piled downstairs. I shot up, my mind buzzing.
That apartment wasn't big, but it had been the sanctuary for me and the kids these past few months. Inside were my elder son's toys, comic books, clothes, and a bunch of stuff Chin Chin brought over.
On what grounds? I gritted my teeth. I rented that apartment myself. I have the contract in my hands.
Bai Qingguang grabbed my hand.
It's useless.
The developer of that building is a subsidiary of the Bai Group. My dad just needs one phone call to make property management tear up the contract.
Lu Jingguan, don't panic. I just had someone book a hotel downtown. You 3 can move there temporarily. Let me handle the housing situation. My whole body was trembling. Not out of fear, but out of anger.
5 years ago, I was driven out by the Bai family like trash. 5 years later, they want to pull the same trick again. I, Lu Jingguan, may be poor and have no powerful background, but I still have my dignity. Early the next morning, I asked Bai Qingguang to watch the kids and went to the apartment building myself. Sure enough, my belongings were scattered all over the ground, clothes strewn across the concrete.
Comic books were trampled and crumpled, and Chenchen's faded, well-loved teddy bear was nowhere to be found.
I squatted down, picking things up one by one, all covered in dust. Nearby, a few elderly ladies doing morning exercises pointed and whispered among themselves. I didn't care about their gossip.
I stuffed my things into a borrowed woven bag, moving them to the car trip by trip. Just then, a black Maybach slowly pulled up in front of me.
The car door opened and an old man in his 60s stepped out. He had graying hair and wore a meticulously tailored light-colored suit, his gaze as sharp as a knife.
Bai Jinbong, Bai Qingguan's father, the head of the Bai Group.
I had seen his photos online, but the real person gave off an even more oppressive aura than in the pictures. He just stood there, and the surrounding air seemed to drop a few degrees.
Lu Jingguan.
He stared at me from head to toe, his tone like he was summoning a servant. I stood up straight, still holding a half-filled bag of clothes, and looked at him calmly.
Is there something you need, mister?
Bai. A silver-rimmed glasses-wearing assistant standing next to him immediately took a step forward, handing me a piece of paper.
This is a notice from the Bai Group's legal department.
First, you took the Bai family's flesh and blood without permission while Ms. Bai Qingguan was recovering after childbirth, which constitutes suspected child abduction. The Bai Group reserves the right to pursue full legal action against you.
Second, the property you are residing in has been reclaimed. You are required to move out within 48 hours. Third, considering you do not have a stable high-income job and lack the financial capacity to raise young children,
the Bai family will file a lawsuit requesting a change in primary custody of the two children. I took the paper, read both sides thoroughly, then slowly tore it into shreds and threw it on the ground. Bai Jinbong's face darkened, and the two burly bodyguards beside him took a step forward. Old Master Bai, I looked straight into his eyes, enunciating every word clearly. 5 years ago, it was your daughter who took the initiative to be with me, and the children are my own flesh and blood.
I have never kidnapped anyone.
As for my ability to raise them, I've raised my elder child very well abroad these past 5 years.
I never relied on a single cent from the Bai family. If you want to take this to court, I'll see you in court. Bai Jinbong let out a cold sneer. See me in court. What are you going to use to fight me in court? Is your monthly salary even enough to cover lawyer fees?
After saying that, he turned to get in the car. He took 2 steps, then stopped, and without even looking back, said, I'll give you 2 days to bring the 2 kids back to the Bai family. Otherwise, you won't just lose your job, you'll lose your freedom.
Young man, don't be ungrateful.
The Maybach sped off, leaving behind a cloud of dust. I stood there clenching my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. That night, I took the kids and moved into the hotel Bai Qingguan had booked. The 2 little ones didn't know what had happened and found staying in a hotel very novel, jumping around on the bed. I sat by the window looking at the night view outside, smoking cigarette after cigarette. Bai Qingguan pushed the door open and walked in, freezing for a moment when she saw the cigarette in my hand.
But she didn't say anything.
She just walked over and pushed the window open a little wider.
Lu Jingguan, I've contacted the best family lawyer in the capital.
Let's meet with them tomorrow morning, she said softly.
I know my dad's tactics very well.
We have to be prepared in advance. I stubbed out my cigarette and turned to look at her.
Bai Qingguan, tell me the truth. Your dad doesn't just want to take the kids back, does he?
Her eyes flickered and she stayed silent.
He also wants to completely crush all your hopes. Right? I continued. Force me to hand over the kids, then force you to marry someone of equal social standing and completely forget about me.
Bai Qingguan bit her lip tightly, tears welling up in her eyes, and finally nodded. He's already arranged a blind date for me with the eldest son of the Chow family in the capital, Xiao Yanming.
The Chow family and our Bai family are old acquaintances and have long planned to unite through a marriage alliance.
My dad said if I refuse, he will dig up your entire background and past. He will publicly release information online labeling you a scheming fraud clinging to a wealthy family.
He will make it so you can never hold your head high in this country again. Bai Qingguan finally burst into tears. Lu Jingguan, I'm sorry.
It's all my fault for dragging you down. If I hadn't been so indecisive 5 years ago and listened to Jin Xian's instigation, our family wouldn't have ended up like this today. I watched her cry, my heart feeling like it was being squeezed by a cruel hand. I once said my love for her had been completely worn away. But seeing her like this, my heart still ached.
Maybe there are some feelings you can't just let go of no matter what you say. Stop crying. I handed her a tissue. Crying won't solve the problem. Your dad isn't pressuring you. He's pressuring me. He thinks I'll back down when things get tough and voluntarily give up the kids. So, will you give up? She looked at me with red eyes. I gave a bitter smile. If I could give up, I wouldn't have taken my son far away to a foreign land 5 years ago. That night, Bai Qingguang and I talked for a long time. She said she had secretly contacted several veteran executives of the Bai Group. These people built the business empire alongside her mother years ago. They were extremely loyal to her mother and have always protected her, the eldest daughter. If Bai Zhenbang insists on carrying out his plan, these people will oppose him during the board of directors meeting. But I need time, Bai Qingguang said. At least a month. During this month, I can't visit you and the kids too often, otherwise my dad will grow even more suspicious. I nodded. All right, you do what you need to do. Leave the kids to me. You don't need to worry. She stood up to leave, walked to the door, then turned back, hesitating for a long time before asking softly, "Can you give me a hug?" I looked at her, not moving. Her eyes dimmed, and she forced a smile. Never mind, pretend I didn't say anything. I took a step forward and gently pulled her into a hug. Her body stiffened for a moment. Then, like grabbing a lifeline, she hugged my waist tightly, buried her face in my shoulder, and cried until she was trembling. I closed my eyes, unsure of what tangled emotions were swirling inside me. After Bai Qingguang left, life became even more tense. I was juggling work and taking care of the two kids while dealing with constant harassment from Bai Zhenbang. First, the company suddenly received an anonymous tip, claiming I had financial irregularities during my overseas employment. The company suspended me pending a full investigation. I knew this was the Bai family applying pressure, but I had no way to prove my innocence because that so-called evidence was completely fabricated. Next, the kindergarten principal awkwardly pulled me aside. Some parents had complained that my two identical-looking sons made other children uncomfortable, advising me to transfer one of them to another school. I was so angry I was shaking, but I knew full well Bai Zhenbang was pulling strings behind the scenes. The most outrageous incident happened on the third day. I took the two little ones to the supermarket to buy groceries. As soon as we reached checkout, several strangers surrounded us. They claimed to be Bai family bodyguards, stating they were acting on old Master Bai's orders to bring the young masters home. The two kids were terrified and hid tightly behind my back. I stood in front to shield my children and confronted those men. Finally, supermarket staff called the police, and the officers drove them away. On the way back home, my elder son asked me in a small voice, "Dad, did those bad guys want to snatch me and Chen away?" Chen also tugged at my hand, his eyes filled with fear. "Dad, I don't want to go back to that big mansion. I want to stay with you." I squatted down, pulling both kids firmly into my arms, my voice very clear and firm. "Dad won't let anyone take you away. Absolutely no one." When we got home, I called Bai Qingguang and told her everything that had happened over the past 2 days. The other end of the line stayed silent for a long time. Then her voice carried an unprecedented ruthlessness. "Enough. I don't want to wait anymore. What are you going to do?" I had a bad feeling about this. "Tomorrow, the Bai Group is holding a board meeting. I will officially propose a motion to remove my dad from his CEO position during the meeting. I've secured the support of over 45% of the shareholders, plus the 25% of shares I hold in my own name. It is enough to initiate a formal vote of no confidence." Bai Qingguang's voice was very calm, a calmness that made one's heart ache. "Lu Jingwan, if I fail, I might lose absolutely everything. But if I don't take this stand, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I gripped my phone tightly, my fingers trembling slightly. "Are you sure you want to do this? He's your father. He's the man who hurt you and the kids first, and he is only my father by blood," Bai Qingguang said firmly. "Besides, I owe you this much." The next day, I didn't go to work. I stayed at the hotel to keep the two kids company. I stared at my phone all day long, waiting for news from Bai Qingguang. At 10 a.m., she sent a text saying the meeting had started, then went completely silent. As every minute and second ticked by, anxiety gnawed at me. The kids must have sensed my unease too. They were incredibly well behaved all day. No fussing, no crying, just quietly playing with their Lego bricks. At 2 p.m., the phone finally rang. It was Bai Qingguang. Her voice sounded like she had been crying or was utterly exhausted. "Lu Jingwan, we won." I let out a long sigh of relief, feeling like all the strength had been drained from my body.
My dad agreed to give up full custody disputes over the kids and he will no longer target you in any way. In exchange, I promised not to file a motion to remove him from his director position for 3 years and to reserve a fixed annual dividend portion for him. Bai Qingguang paused for a moment.
He also asked me to pass on a message to you. What is it?
He said, that guy named Lu sure has a lot of nerve.
I froze for a second, then couldn't help but laugh. This was probably Bai Zhenbon's awkward way of admitting defeat.
He wouldn't soften his harsh tone, but his actions showed he had already yielded to Bai Qingguang.
Thank you, I said. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds.
Then she replied softly, no need to thank me.
From now on, let's just take life one step at a time.
Okay, I didn't give a direct answer, but I didn't refuse her either.
That night, I moved out of the hotel. With Bai Qingguang's help, I rented a new apartment.
It was a bit more spacious than the last one, with 2 bedrooms and a study. The 2 kids each got their own separate room, so they no longer had to squeeze into one single bed. On our first day moving into the new place, Chen Qin hugged his recovered teddy bear tightly. He rolled happily around on the little bed I had just made for him, smiling from ear to ear. My elder son tugged at my hand, pointed at the empty living room wall, and said, Dad, let's hang a family photo up there.
A complete family photo. I paused slightly.
An image flashed in my mind, the 2 kids standing side by side with Bai Qingguang.
All right, I said. We'll go take one in a few days.
The doorbell rang right at that moment. I opened the door and saw Bai Qingguang standing there carrying large bags of fresh groceries. Sweat dotted her forehead. I'm here to cook a housewarming meal for you guys. She smiled, her gaze sweeping past me to look into the house where the 2 kids were waving happily at her. I stepped aside to let her in. The sound of chopping vegetables soon echoed from the kitchen. The 2 kids ran back and forth around the kitchen, eagerly offering to help with small chores. I stood in the living room watching this warm scene, and the deep, long-frozen part of my heart seemed to crack open just a little. A sliver of warm light finally seeped in.
Maybe life really was going to get better from now on.
Later, I saw news about Jin Xian on television. The court held a public trial for Jin Xian's intentional attempted homicide case. The evidence was irrefutable, with both eyewitness testimony and physical proof fully documented. He confessed to all his premeditated crimes and was ultimately sentenced to 25 years in prison. In the trial news footage, he wore a plain prison uniform. His hair was a tangled mess, his face twisted with ferocity, his eyes filled with venomous hatred. Gone was the refined, elegant mask he once wore. Gone was his fake, gentle demeanor. He looked like a complete lunatic, a total loser who had lost everything. I thought all troubles were finally over, but I didn't expect Bai Qingguang to refuse to let him rest easy. Under her secret behind-the-scenes arrangements, Jin Xian faced constant trouble within the prison walls. He repeatedly picked fights with other inmates, defied prison guards, and violated prison regulations over and over again, showing zero remorse for his crimes. His sentence was extended time and time again, from the original 25 years all the way to 50 years. He would never walk free from that prison for the rest of his life, doomed to pay for his cruelty and madness forever. Watching him receive the punishment he fully deserved on the TV screen, I felt completely calm. No anger, no lingering resentment, only quiet peace. It felt like the huge boulder that had weighed me down for 5 years had finally been lifted off my chest. With no more hidden dangers or threats looming over us, I could focus entirely on raising my 2 kids in peace and live a quiet, simple life. With the 2 kids always by my side, the days were happy and warm, full of small joys, yet also filled with daily childish chaos. There were always little moments that made me alternate between laughing and feeling soft-hearted, like what was unfolding right now. The familiar sound of childish bickering echoed from the living room. Dad, I found this toy first. If I'm playing with it, you can't just snatch it away from me. The elder brother hugged the Ultraman figure and hid behind my back, his little face full of defiance, hands planted firmly on his hips as he argued his case. I spotted it first. I grabbed it first. Good things need to be shared fairly. Dad, you can't play favorites. You have to be impartial to both of us. The younger brother tugged at my shirt, tilting his little face up at me, puffing his cheeks in anger. His small eyebrows furrowed in the most adorable way as the 2 of them argued back and forth non-stop. They soon started scuffling again, pushing and pulling at each other. Toys were scattered all over the floor, from Lego bricks to comic books, toy cars strewn every which way. The living room was a total mess, as if a small hurricane had just swept through the space. This kind of squabble happened almost every single day.
Last time they fought over a comic book and tore a whole page clean out of it.
A few days ago, they argued over grapes and accidentally knocked a ceramic plate to the ground and broke it. Yesterday, they fought over a paintbrush and smeared every color of paint all over the white walls. I simply pretended not to hear their quarrel, leaning back on the sofa to read the newspaper without stepping in to mediate. I let the kids sort out their trivial conflicts by themselves.
Children's fights flare up and fade away in an instant. There's no need to micromanage every small dispute between them. The more you intervene, the messier their argument becomes.
Sure enough, it didn't take long before I heard the younger brother's aggrieved yet compromising voice.
Fine, you can play with it for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you have to trade it with me. No going back on your word.
The elder brother immediately agreed, his little face lighting up with joy, looking incredibly smug.
Deal. It's a promise. I'll hand it over to you in 5 minutes.
I peeked over the newspaper and saw the two of them huddled together again, their small heads touching as they played happily with the Ultraman figure.
The fierce argument from just moments ago was completely forgotten without a trace.
The two brothers were as close as could be, laughing and chatting away as they played side by side. Soft sunlight streamed through the window, casting a gentle golden glow over their two small figures. Warm and peaceful, quiet, unhurried ordinary days.
This must be the peaceful life I've long dreamed of.
I smiled in genuine relief, my heart filled with quiet contentment and pure happiness.
No more wealthy family power struggles. No more scheming villains creating endless trouble. No more hidden plots, jealousy, or years of bitter resentment weighing on my heart. Only me and my 2 children. Simple and warm. Happy and peaceful.
These noisy, chaotic yet overflowing days filled with love are exactly the life I crave and cherish most in this whole world.